Good morning, and welcome to Temple Buddhist Center's Sunday meditation service. My name is Dave, and I'm honored to be of service this morning. We hope our service this morning finds you happy and healthy, but know that if you're struggling, we hope that Temple Buddhist Center can be a source of refuge as we open our hearts to you and your loved ones. Let's begin this morning with a few conscious breaths, taking a few moments to ground, to experience the body, and to breathe together. Conscious breathing is where you seal the mouth, breathe deeply through the nose, and pause for a moment before releasing slowly so that the exhale is longer than the inhale. Let's begin. Breathing in, pausing just for a moment, feeling the fullness of the lungs, and releasing slowly. And as you release, checking in with the body, just being aware of what is present and alive in the body right now. A second conscious breath, pausing just a moment, ventilating this precious human form, then releasing slowly. As you release, see if you can release any worry or concerns from the week. All the energy of doing, going, striving, accomplishing. Just allow yourself a few moments to cultivate the energy of being, not doing. And a third conscious breath together, releasing slowly. And as you release, taking time to invite into your awareness the present moment, fully arriving in the here and now. Here at Temple Buddhist Center, we like to begin service with a chant. Chanting is an integral part of every tradition, and it's not about being a singer, it's about having a voice. And Victor will explain the chant today.
Thank you, Dave. Our chant this morning is Om Shanti Sat Chitananda. Om Shanti Sat Chitananda. And in the Sanskrit tradition, Sat Chitananda is a three-part word, meaning truth, consciousness, and bliss. So this chant honors that energy of the awakened mind. And Shanti in Sanskrit means peace, and Om, as many of you know or work with in many of the yogic traditions, Om is the seed sound, the sound of the universe, reminding each one of us that we are a beautiful note in a grand cosmic symphony forever playing. And so let's begin with a conscious breath. Together. Om Shanti Sat Chitananda. 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 With a smile. Om Shanti Sat Chitananda. Opening the heart. Om Shanti Sat Chitananda. Om Shanti Sat Chitananda. Once more. Om Shanti Sat Chitananda.
Here at Temple Buddhist Center, we practice Western Buddhism, a blend of Eastern philosophy and Western psychology. This new and exciting form of spirituality is dynamic, inclusive, active, and focuses on core Buddhist insights, mindfulness, meditation, and their practical application in our daily life. Our goal here is not to get everyone to agree on any one lineage or philosophy. Rather, it's on cultivating a shared experience of mindfulness, oneness, and love. Whether we are chanting, meditating, or sharing from the heart, we respect that you'll participate only at the level that feels comfortable for you. We take refuge in the three jewels and acknowledge these core values as expressions of the awakened mind: the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. We value awareness of our own Buddha nature as well as the Buddha nature of all beings, allowing a new perspective of this and every precious moment. The second jewel is the Dharma, the truth teachings that release us from fear and delusion and help us realize the true nature of who we are. And Sangha, our spiritual community, an essential part of the growth where we practice the teachings together and support each other along every step of the path. So let's take a moment to silence any electronic devices and prepare for a meditative environment. And we'll begin by reciting the prayer of refuge. We'll recite this together 3 times. Together, in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we go for refuge until fully awakened, through the power of generosity, ethics, patience, enthusiastic effort, concentration, and wisdom. For the sake of all beings, may we realize and demonstrate our innate goodness. In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we go for refuge until fully awakened, through the power of generosity, ethics, patience, enthusiastic effort, concentration, and wisdom. For the sake of all beings, may we realize and demonstrate our innate goodness. In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we go for refuge until fully awakened, through the power of generosity, ethics, patience, enthusiastic effort, concentration, and wisdom. For the sake of all beings, may we realize and demonstrate our innate goodness. As we enter a time of meditation, if you have an extensive practice, then I invite you to practice in a way that is fitting for you this morning. If you're new to meditation, we will begin with an opening dedication. We will sound the bell 3 times. There will be a brief guided meditation, and then we'll spend approximately 12 to 15 minutes in noble silence. Let's begin by breathing together with a conscious breath. Hold it for a moment and release slowly. Body, speech, and mind in perfect oneness. I send my heart with the sound of the bell. May the hearers awaken from forgetfulness, transcend the path of anxiety and sorrow, and realize the true nature of who they are.
And so as the sound of the bell recedes, moving into stillness, showing us the way. If you need to take another conscious breath or adjust the posture, whatever you need to do to partner with the body in order to create a sense of more spaciousness, gentleness, ease and lightness in the form. And as the breath settles into its natural flow, its natural rhythm, we bring our awareness to the rise and fall of the tummy. With each inhalation and exhalation, we become more gentle, more easy and light. And so connected to the breath, by being aware of the rise and fall of the tummy, the body is relaxed, gentle. We can bring our awareness now to awareness itself. Noticing when the mind becomes aware of a sound in the room or in the hall, when the mind becomes aware of a sensation like an itch or an ache, tummy rumble. Noticing when the mind becomes aware of a thought or even a string of thoughts. All these things come and go, rise and fall, appear and disappear. Ours is to create space for all of them to come and go, to simply be aware of what we are aware of. Each time one of these things arises, a sound or a sensation or a thought, it becomes a springboard for us to simply return to the breath without judgment, without commentary, without decision making. How lightly can you notice? Return. A 100,000 times is not too many times to come back to the breath, because the breath is always in the present moment, and so is a good teacher. And so connected to the breath, the body is easy and light. The mind is clear, yet receptive to whatever arises, and the heart is open. We can move more deeply into our meditation. I close my eyes and I see clearly. I stop trying to listen and I hear truth. I am silent, yet my heart sings. I seek no contact and find union. I am still and move forward. I am gentle and need no strength. I am humble and remain whole, returning again and again to the breath, returning again and again home. So I invite you to bring your awareness to the sense door of sound, noticing the sound of my voice or the sound of rustling in the room. And as you become aware of the sense door of sound, can you keep 5% of your awareness on the still silence within? Next, I invite you to bring your awareness to the sense door of touch as you become aware of the feeling of your clothing upon your skin, or the feeling of the chair or the cushion beneath you. And as you become aware of matter, material, and form, at the same time, can you keep 5% of your awareness on that which is formless? In other words, awareness of awareness. Next, I invite you to bring your awareness to the sense door of sight as you slowly begin to open your eyes, just allowing in a little bit of light, not really focusing on anything. And as you become aware of things, objects, at the same time, can you keep 5% of your awareness on the space around them, in and through them? The space in this room, around this building, around our planet. And next, I invite you to bring your awareness to the breath as we take a conscious breath together. And as you release, be present in the here and the now, in this time and in this place. And so, good morning, everyone. The meditation this morning was particularly powerful for me, to be able to sit in silence and connect with everyone in consciousness. I think Rumi said it best when he said, there's a beautiful, lush field of grass out beyond the ideas of right and wrong. Won't you join me there? So again, it's nice to see and be with everybody. And so this idea, most of you are probably familiar with the idea of the frog in the pot, the old myth or the old story. You've likely heard a grandparent or somebody always talk about, oh, it's like the frog in the pot. However, if you are not familiar with this story, let me share it with you briefly. It's not really even a story as much as it is just a sort of an analogy. But it's the idea that if you take a frog and you place them in a pot of boiling water, they will jump out. And if you take a frog and you place him in a pot of lukewarm water and then turn on the heat, and then the heat grows gradually, incrementally, then he will sit in there and boil. I did some research. And according to the groundbreaking essay entitled The Physiological Ecology of Thermal Relations of Amphibians and Reptiles to Critical Thermal Maxima and Minima, Thermal Selection, and Thermoregulatory Behavior, great read, by the way. This story is completely false. The frog will indeed jump out. However, I think we all understand the point of the analogy itself, that the anecdote, even if it's inaccurate, is often used to describe how subtle, how incremental change remains unobserved in our lives. It's just that the frog in the pot is such a much more interesting title than, say, creeping normality or something like that. It's a much better title. So this idea of the subtleness, I mean, we've all experienced it in one way or another. You know, you might, you know, your spouse or a family member or a partner might not notice that you've put on a couple extra pounds over COVID, but you see a friend who you haven't seen in 6 months and you're like, hey, you know, it's that incremental, that subtle way that so much of our experience operates. And so I wanted to talk about today. The invitation today is to reaffirm our commitment to examining our experience under the microscope of our practice. We sometimes get so caught up in the big things. Oh, my car is broken, or the AC's not working. And we get caught up in these big things, or maybe even bigger. We can so easily in today's day and age get caught up in, you know, environmental degradation, war, famine, pollution. And so we get caught up in these great big things, and that's a trap. That's not where the practice is. It's sort of like the other trap where we deal with the thoughts about an emotion instead of dealing directly with the emotion. That's where the practice is. And so for example, this subtlety, what was the first thing you noticed this morning when you woke up? What was the first thing you noticed when you walked into the building today? The subtleties. Jack Cornfield loves to talk about notice what you notice. And right there is a whole world of the practice and the ability to purify fear, greed, hatred, and delusion. My teacher always used to say, when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. When you live from a place of fear, notice what you notice. When you live from a place of envy or lack, notice what you notice. Do you notice, oh, that guy's got a really cool car. Oh, wow, what an amazing suit or dress. Or, oh, look at their partner. Wow, they're beautiful. When you're always noticing this comparing mind, as the Buddha would talk about, or it could even be the opposite. Noticing how much better you have it than others. Notice what you notice. So you see, the spiritual life asks us not to change the world, but to love it exactly as it is, which is in no way to say that we do not take action when moved to do so. I'll give you an example. My apartment building is next to a very busy street. And every morning as I walk to my car, I am grateful that I am able to pick up the trash that was left by all the cars that went by that day. Now, I am aware of the subtle thoughts and emotions that want to condemn those people that throw things out the window. I am aware of these as they arise, but this is where the subtlety of the practice is. If you get caught up in your anger, in your condemnation, in your judgment, you have missed the practice completely. Gosh, if the whole world would just do what I wanted to do, everything would be great. Yeah. Let me know how that works for you. So instead, I am grateful that I am able to, I always take out a little bag with me in the morning, scoop it up, and deposit it in the trash can. And I am aware of those thoughts and emotions that arise. However, there is enough compassion in my heart that there is room for all three of those things: the anger, the thoughts, the emotions, as well as the blame and the judgment, and compassion for this form that feels those things. And so therefore, the compassion is vast and has plenty of room for all of that. And so, with this compassion, our practice shifts the normal reactivity, blame, judgment, anger, fear, into the response of compassion. For a long time in my practice, it was the anger and the fear that came up first. And I'd be like, blame, judgment, calling them every name in the book. And then I would see that, and then I would sit and I would practice and try to allow space for all that to come up. But as my practice has matured, as I work with my teachers, both formal and informal, the people who throw the trash out of the car window are my teachers. Don't mistake that. And so as I work with this, what arises first now is compassion. It's responding to the world, not reacting to it any longer. You see, it's the subtle beliefs, the quiet stories, the secret identifications that create division and suffering in our lives and the lives of those around us. It almost seems that our modern pace, our 24-hour news cycles, our screens, apps, and ads all cultivate and motivate us very subtly to simply adapt rather than question. React rather than respond. It is a powerful thing to be able to see the reactivity of the body and simply be present with it. Allow it to come and go, and then I choose what my response is. Reactivity does not give you that choice. It's just reactivity, bouncing off the world. And so the Buddha shows us the way and gives us many wonderful tools with which to cultivate compassion, with which to cultivate our responsiveness to the world instead of reactivity, by going inward, by self-inquiry. And this courageous work of examining our human experience is not easy, but it is worth it. So one of the most important tools that the Buddha gave us was this discussion, this examination of what they call the 5 skandhas, or the 5 aggregates of clinging to human form. Those things that keep us tethered to the body, so that we don't realize that I have a body, but I'm not my body. I have feelings and emotions, but I am not my feelings and emotions. And I have thoughts, but I am not my thoughts. Those are all worldly aspects. Those are all part of the human form that comes, the things that come with this body. They're part of the practice, but it's not who we are. And so the 5 aggregates of clinging to human form, when taken together, explain the totality of what we think of as reality, and by extension, the self. Most important here, that in what are called the 5 skandhas, the 5 aggregates of clinging, it's the same thing. Most important is the clear distinction made between direct moment-to-moment experience and then the mental projections that we add on top of those experiences. The confusion between these two being a primary cause of suffering, not only in our life, but in the world. I'll say that again. Be very, very clear that the distinction made between direct moment-to-moment experience and the mental projections about those experiences, the confusion between these two is the primary cause of suffering. And so that is why the little subtitle here is the subtleties of the practice. It is a very subtle practice. That is why we take the noble one seat. That is why we commit to being still. Because in that spacious, vast expanse of just being present, all those quiet stories, all those subtle beliefs, all those secret identifications can't hide in the light of awareness. They bubble up. And that is the path of the spiritual warrior. So let's talk about the 5 aggregates of clinging. And by the way, I created a little handout and I put it on the counter right outside the meditation hall. Number 1, and these are a progression, these are a chain, okay? So it's important to take these and realize them as they show up. Number 1, sensation. Number 1 is our direct experience. Through the senses, how we sense the physical world. Bernie Glass, a great spiritual teacher and writer, clarifies the point that even what we think of as objective physical reality has been already mediated through our senses. In other words, there is a stimulus, there is a sound, there is something that happens and it comes in through our senses. And already it is slightly tainted by how our senses perceive what has occurred. But that's the first thing. There's the stimulus, okay? Number 2, feeling. This is our simplest internal experience of the sensation. And it shows up in one of 3 ways. We either like it, we dislike it, or we're neutral about it. Pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. This is the same in all traditions when they teach and talk about the 5 aggregates of clinging. Number 3, our reaction. Oh, this is getting good. The feeling of dislike, like, or neutrality provokes a reaction in us, which ranges from leaping to our feet at the loud sound of our neighbor's car, all the way to just a subtle contraction or a relaxation in the body. Such reactions may also include complex emotional responses like anger, fear, envy, and thus also include other aspects of the traditional 4th skandha, which I'm going to talk about next. So they start to bleed together a little bit. Number 4, recognition or interpretation. You start to see where the subtlety of all of our years of conditioning all show up in this moment. We carry them with us. So number 4 is our recognition or our interpretation. The mind catches up with an experience and applies a label to it. In the example about our neighbor's car, we've heard a sound, we disliked it, and we leaped to our feet before realizing that it was just a car backfiring. This is essentially the same as the 3rd skandha, this reactivity, but number 4 brings in, this recognition and interpretation aspect of it. This all happens in a nanosecond. That's why this is so subtle. Number 5, and there are 5 aggregates. Number 5 is consciousness. As Bernie Glass explains, this is just our ordinary human consciousness as average people experience it. But the key aspect for our purposes in this practice is that it is where we suddenly and instantly download the complete storehouse of past experiences and concepts, and thereby obscure the direct, matter-of-fact experience of the first skanda, the sensation. In other words, there is a stimulus, and then all these skandhas download and happened, and it suddenly becomes so much more than just the matter-of-fact experience. We know this. Every time a car pulls 6 inches in front of us on the highway, it's not just a car pulling 6 inches in front of us on the highway. It's a maniac trying to kill us, and we have to teach them a lesson. I have suddenly become the guardian of the universe, and I'm going to show them. All of this happens. And our mind latches onto, for example, our neighbor's loud car starting up at, 7 in the morning. And then all of a sudden, all of our thinking kicks in, and all of a sudden now it's not just a loud car. He's probably disconnected the emission system and is pumping out noxious chemicals, changing the health of the entire planet. And it wouldn't be that way if we hadn't become so dependent on fossil fuels to begin with. And so if we don't do something soon, the entire human race is doomed. That's called suffering. That's called dukkha. And it's very human. It's what we do. It's not just a spoon in the sink. It's, you don't respect me. I clean this house all day long, and you don't respect my efforts. And so you leave stuff laying around because you don't respect me, and so therefore you don't love me, and our whole marriage of 14 years is now on the rocks because you decided to leave a spoon in the sink. This is what we do. So stories, of course, are simply made up of thoughts, whole string of thoughts. Those mental sound bites that intrude upon our direct experience. And this is one of the problems that I have with 24-hour news cycles that are broadcasting things that are happening 10,000 miles away 10 days ago. None of this is your direct experience, and yet knowledge is responsibility, and we take it on. And now we feel helpless because I can't help those people down in Kentucky or in the Ukraine or starving in Ethiopia. I can't help them, and I feel helpless because these things are all happening completely outside of our direct experience. I'm not saying that you can't vote, you can't take out your checkbook and write a check and send it somewhere. If you are so moved, get in your car and drive down to Kentucky and help. But to just sit around thinking the whole world is going to hell in a handbasket is suffering. And it's completely optional. And not only are you doing it to yourself, but you're adding that into our communities, into our workplace, into our schools. And so this is where, as we take the one seat and we commit ourselves to examining how this thought process occurs, how we add so much more to the very matter-of-fact, simple experiences that we encounter. When we commit to this mindfulness practice, this is where we see changes. It's is not so much on the meditation cushion. You're not going to suddenly float 2 inches off the cushion one day, although That may have happened to some of you, but we see it more in where we learn to let go of the thoughts, let go of the conditioned patterns of speech and behavior. The more we gain the ability to drop out of these constant chain of thinking, the more we are able to let go of the negative stories. The more we learn to let go of tiny little judgments. Oh, it's a beautiful day. You just set up an ugly day. Let go of those. Bring our awareness to the pleasant feeling when you step outside instead of the thoughts about the feelings. We begin to catch ourselves earlier and earlier in the chain of the 5 aggregates of clinging. Pretty soon, we are simply present with the feeling of pleasant and unpleasant and neutral. And as we cultivate that, we can actually become aware of what the feeling is before we say or do something, which helps us to purify fear, greed, hatred, and delusion, because much of what we say and do is just reactive. We always begin with meditation. Add in our work with the awareness of the 5 aggregates of clinging in our daily life. We can incorporate other practices like 3-urge meditation. When you get in the car, right before you turn on NPR or whatever it is that you want to crank up, stop. Be aware. Don't be reactive. Just explore. What is it that in this moment is lacking that needs the NPR or needs the music? What is it in this moment that's lacking that needs for me to do this, add something to it? And then when you explore that, it's okay. Go ahead and turn on NPR or crank up the jams. All I'm asking is to be aware, not deny yourself. That's not what this practice is about. Unfortunately, most people think that, but it's not. It's about bringing awareness to each moment. And so I want to close with this poem by Mark Nepo, which I think is delicious in how it really shines the light of awareness on the subtlety of our experience. When I can't breaks down into tell me who I am. When I have no choice unravels into how can I help? When the tongue stuck in no tires into yes. When all we can do is freed from all that has been done, a presence that is everyone's and yet no one's will keep the inner light alive, the way hearts beating at night while we are asleep keep all the stars in place. And so as we transition now from the Dharma talk into loving kindness or a heart practice, it's not uncommon to shift our posture, take a conscious breath or whatever you need to, kind of wiggle a little bit. And also a heart practice can add in a physical outward expression or a gesture. Some people simply might create the Anjali Mudra. Others might place a hand on their heart. And it's okay to just have your hands open in your lap, just inviting an openness to this practice. And so I invite you to take a conscious breath. And as you release that breath, I invite you to bring to mind the image of the entire world. All the plants and the flowers and the trees, animals of the land, the sea, the sky, and all sentient beings. And holding this image of the world in your mind's eye, recite silently to yourself these words of metta practice or loving kindness. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be safe from inner and outer dangers. May we be well in body and mind. May we be well in body and mind. And may we be at ease and happy. Allowing your hearts to expand, sending this message out to all beings in all places. And in the true spirit of dana, the Buddhist practice of generosity, Temple Buddhist Center offers these services freely. And in the same way, if you choose to give, please give with a generous heart, which means not in return for anything that you have received today, but rather so that those who may be seeking refuge can find it here with these teachers, with these teachings, with this Sangha. And I wanted to note that Temple Buddhist Center has added a new recipient of our dana, and that is Benilde Hall, which is a recovery center for veterans. I had the wonderful opportunity to go and speak with them this week, and we're setting up a monthly program to bring meditation, mindfulness, and core Buddhist teachings to the Benilde Hall Center for all of those folks there. So I'm very excited about that. The dana boxes are located at the back of the meditation hall, and we take a moment of gratitude for all of our amazing volunteers and also for our ambassadors. Our ambassadors are those folks who have committed to regular monthly electronic giving. And it's not about the amount, it's just that the regular monthly giving helps us to set a budget here at TBC. If you would like to become an ambassador, just stop by our website, templebuddhistcenter.com, and click on the Love Offering button. And also tremendous gratitude for all of our amazing volunteers who help us each and every day to bring more spiritual nourishment and spiritual enrichment to our community, both near and far. All of those folks joining us from actually around the world. We have folks internationally joining Temple Buddhist Center online. And so also a special thank you to Jordan. Thank you, Jordan, for your beautiful music. Thank you, Dave, for helping out. There you go. For helping out in a pinch this morning. And thank you to each and every one of you for sharing your heart and your presence and your practice with all of us here at Temple Buddhist Center. We certainly are the better for it. And so as we prepare now for the bodhicitta dedication, we will recite this out loud together. Are you seeing how I'm stalling as I get all the way through everybody and all of our folks at home online? Our bodhicitta dedication together. May the pure, brilliant sun of bodhicitta dawn in each and every heart and mind, dispelling the darkness of suffering and confusion unstoppably until all are illumined and awakened. And with the palms of our hands together in front of our hearts, as we go forth now from this place, may we enter each moment in innocence, guided by the wisdom of our hearts. And as we open our hands, open our eyes, shine our light into the world. Namaste. Thank you, everyone, so much. I have just a couple brief announcements. Our last interplay for just a little while. We're hoping to get it going again in this fall. But our last interplay is today from 1 to 3. If you haven't experienced interplay, it is a fun, safe, and exciting way for adults and children to experience the freedom of spontaneity, of improvisation, of joy, laughter, connection, as we kind of break through some of those barriers of judgment. So that's happening today from 1 to 3. We hope that you can join us, maybe get some lunch and come back. Also, I wanted to point out very importantly that our TBC quarterly day-long retreat is going to be, the registration page will be put up this week. A day-long retreat is a wonderful complement to your daily, regular sitting practice. And so a day-long retreat goes from 9 to 4:30. There is silence, silent meditation, silent walking meditation, silent lunch together. There is a Dharma talk. And so we hope that you can join us in this great opportunity to really deepen your practice. And as always, Tai Chi Cha will start again August 23rd. We have the Buddha and the Bean every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Coffee and a celebration of waking up in all of its forms. Don't forget our post-service discussion group, which is happening right after the service, down the hall to the left. And I have my special note here so I don't forget things. Also, our lending library. And for those of you that are interested, there are coffee and cookies downstairs. And also I have a handout of the 5 skandhas that I put on the registration desk out front. And then finally, there is a question box. It's just a little card box out on the counter so that if you have a question about your practice, about meditation or mindfulness, you can write it out and put it in that card, in that little box. And please don't forget to put your email or even a phone number so I can call you back with an answer. Somebody put a question in the box last Sunday that said, in which ways do duality affect the ego? Now, that is a big question. And so one that's going to require an email so I can respond back to you. But basically, the short answer is that ego is an agent of duality and is a necessary function of our entire waking up process. So be happy to talk about those kinds of things with you. Again, thank you everyone so much for being here today. As you go into your day, I wish you peace, blessings, and don't worry. Wait, I'll go back. Don't worry. Be happy.